Some disappearances happen in silence, others leave behind only questions, but few are as haunting and unresolved as the story of Lauren Spierer, a 20-year-old student who vanished from her college town in the middle of the night and was never seen again. This is the true story of Lauren Spierer. It was a warm June night in Bloomington, Indiana. Most students at Indiana University had already gone home for the summer. The streets were quiet, dorm rooms dark, but Lauren Spierer had stayed behind, looking forward to summer classes and spending time with friends. She was full of energy, barely 5 feet tall with long blonde hair and a strong New York accent. Lauren had a confidence about her, the kind that came from knowing who she was. She had a close-knit group of friends, loved fashion, and always seemed to be in motion. Her parents described her as bright, fearless, and deeply loyal. She had a medical condition that made her heart sensitive to stimulants and alcohol. But like many young people, Lauren pushed boundaries. That evening, she spent time with friends at her apartment complex, Smallwood Plaza. She wore a white tank top, black leggings, and a loose white shirt. Casual, relaxed. She left her phone and ID behind, taking only her keys. Around 12:30 a.m., she and a friend named Corey Rossman walked to Kilroy's sports bar. There, they drank, laughed, and spent time on the sand-covered patio. Lauren took off her shoes to walk barefoot in the sand and never put them back on. By 1:46 a.m., surveillance cameras showed Lauren and Corey returning to Smallwood. Inside the lobby, they ran into another student who said Corey was extremely intoxicated and got into a brief altercation. Security intervened, and Corey was escorted upstairs. Lauren followed. She stayed with Corey briefly in his apartment, where his roommate Mike Beth tried to help him into bed. Mike said Lauren seemed calm but tired. Around 3 a.m., she decided to leave and walk to a friend's townhouse a few blocks away. Mike walked her part of the way to the intersection of 11th Street and College Avenue, and then turned back. Lauren continued alone. She was barefoot, without her phone, no ID, no money, just her keys. She reached the home of Jay Rosenbaum, another friend. He later told police that Lauren had a bruise under her eye, which she said came from falling earlier in the night. She used his phone to try calling 2 friends. Neither answered. At around 4:30 a.m., she told Jay she was heading home. He watched her walk to the door. That was the last time anyone ever saw her. The next morning, Lauren's roommate noticed she hadn't come back. She hadn't gone to her summer internship. Her phone was still at home. Panic set in. Friends began calling around. By midday, Lauren's parents were on a flight from New York to Indiana. A missing persons report was filed. Police launched an immediate investigation. Volunteers joined. Flyers went up. Social media lit up. Search parties fanned out across Bloomington, into fields, along railroad tracks, through wooded areas, down riverbanks. Lauren had vanished without a trace. Police interviewed everyone she had been with that night. Corey Rossman claimed he couldn't remember anything after the altercation in the lobby, possibly due to a concussion. Mike Beth confirmed he had walked with Lauren and said she was coherent when he left her. Jay Rosenbaum said he watched her leave his townhouse. Surveillance footage confirmed parts of their stories, but not all. There was no video of Lauren leaving Jay's home, no footage of her walking on the street. She had simply disappeared. Rumors began almost immediately that Lauren had overdosed, that someone panicked, that there had been a cover-up. But there was no body, no witnesses, no proof, just silence. Lauren's parents offered a $100,000 reward. Later, it was increased to $250,000. They gave interviews, held press conferences, worked with the FBI, and hired private investigators. They stayed in Bloomington for weeks, then months, then years. Tips came in from around the country. None led anywhere. Cadaver dogs were brought in. Creeks were drained. A landfill was searched. No trace. No evidence. No answers. In 2016, the FBI searched a property in Martinsville, Indiana, based on a tip. Cadaver dogs reacted. The area was dug. Nothing was found. Lauren's shoes remained at the bar. Her phone and ID were never used. Her bank accounts untouched. Her name entered into national databases. But there were no suspects, no charges, no closure. Her parents never gave up. They returned to Indiana again and again. They spoke her name on television, in schools, in interviews. They refused to let her be forgotten. Years passed. New students arrived at Indiana University, unaware of the young woman whose face had once been everywhere. Posters faded, stories quieted, but for the Spierer family, the pain never left. Lauren would be in her 30s today. Her toothbrush still sits in its cup. Her bedroom back in New York remains untouched. Her mother still hopes to hear footsteps in the hall. A voice calling out, a door opening, a life coming home. But the truth remains. No one knows what happened after Lauren walked out that door. What the community of Bloomington remembers is not just the mystery, but the ache, the silence that followed, the growing sense that something precious had slipped through their fingers. As weeks turned into months, search efforts continued, quieter now, but still determined. People who had never met Lauren wore T-shirts with her name. They carried flashlights at night and walked trails that police had already searched, just in case they missed something. Even strangers hundreds of miles away printed her flyer and taped it to gas pumps and bulletin boards. The story refused to fade. At the university, students left notes and candles outside the dorms. Some spoke of feeling unsafe. Others admitted they hadn't known Lauren personally, but they still cried when her name was mentioned. Lauren's parents, Robert and Charlene, became a steady presence in the media, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. They spoke softly, clearly, and with a strength that only comes from a love that refuses to break. Charlene once said, "We are living every parent's nightmare, but we are not giving up." They stayed in a rented apartment in Bloomington for as long as they could, waiting for a call, hoping for a knock at the door, clinging to the idea that maybe someone, somewhere had seen something and would finally come forward. But no one did. On the first anniversary of Lauren's disappearance, friends gathered for a candlelight vigil on campus. Photos of Lauren were placed on easels. A violin played in the distance. Her father spoke, voice cracking, and asked a simple question. "If you know something, please tell us. Let this be the year we bring her home." Still, the silence held. Some of the men Lauren had been with that night moved away from Bloomington. One deleted his social media accounts. Another refused further interviews. None were ever named as suspects. None were ever arrested. But the lingering question in the minds of many remained. How can someone vanish from a college town, surrounded by friends, and leave no trace? In time, investigators began looking beyond Indiana. They explored similar cases across state lines. They reviewed missing persons in nearby counties. Every tip, no matter how bizarre, was logged and checked. One person claimed they had seen Lauren in Georgia. Another swore she was being held in Ohio. Each lead brought a flicker of hope, and each one ended in disappointment. Years later, Charlene and Robert returned to Bloomington one last time. They walked the streets their daughter had walked, stood at the corners where she had laughed. They visited Kilroy's, now under new ownership. They spoke with freshmen who had never heard Lauren's name, and they stood once more at the place where she was last seen. "We needed to feel her here again," Charlene said, "even if only for a moment." Despite everything, they never declared Lauren legally dead. They never held a funeral. They never erased her from the family portrait. Her toothbrush is still in the bathroom. Her makeup bag still sits on her dresser. Her shoes, the ones she left behind at the bar, were never returned to them. In the years that followed, the case appeared on television shows, documentaries, podcasts. True crime communities kept her name alive. People analyzed maps, retraced steps, debated timelines, but no new evidence emerged. No new witness came forward. Eventually, the case file was moved from active to inactive, not closed, never closed, just quiet. Every now and then, a rumor surfaces. Someone claims to have overheard something at a party. Someone else believes they saw her in a crowd. But nothing has ever been confirmed. And so the story of Lauren Spierer remains suspended in time, one moment stretching endlessly into the next, with no resolution, no goodbye. A story not just of a disappearance, but of everything that comes after. Her mother once said, "We don't get to grieve, we just wait," and they are still waiting. What do you believe happened to Lauren Spierer? Was she taken by someone she knew? Or was it a tragic crime of opportunity? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy true mysteries like this one, subscribe for more, because sometimes the most chilling stories are the ones that really happened.